Hello students. This is the seventh lecture of the module of mass communication, and in this module we will be dealing about the different aspects of Indian cinema and cinema at large. Now, in the previous module you have learned about the various modes of communication, how communication acts as a tool for the dissemination of information. From there, we went on to the basic and core concepts of journalism, the various journalistic ethics, the various laws which guide the journalist, the ethics which has to be followed by the journalist, the various censorship rules, and so on and forth. So basically, this lecture will enable you to understand the various other pedagogy of mass communication, what goes into making up of the domain of mass communication. Then this will also familiarize you with the different models, the different techniques which are used in film studies later on during the course of this lecture, and also it will acquaint you with the films of the Indian scenarios. So this will be a two-part lecture. So in the first part we will be today dealing with the early beginnings of cinema in India, then the Lumiere brothers, who were considered to be the pioneers of the cinema at large. Then we will know about the silent era, then posted the talkies came, which was almost a wonderful end to the silent era. Then we'll talk about the studio system, the golden age, the age where there was the written of the action genre and the angry young man concept came to be focalized. We'll deal with the new wave or the parallel cinema, go on with the middle cinema, and we'll also deal with the regional languages cinema. Now, when we talk about cinema, before the advent of cinema, theatre was a major form of popular entertainment in our country. Now, since time immemorial, there has always been a human tendency to know, to disseminate knowledge, to expose the people from the known to the unknown. Now, telling of stories or showcasing of stories was a predominant feature. Now, this mode of communication was essential primarily because of the lineage or the heritage which was passed on towards the other generations. Now, over the period of time, now if we see the political affiliations which we subscribe to now were very different in the previous eras. Now, how it used to function was people used to pass on stories in next stories. Now, you have your oral folklore. Now, Yakshagana of Karnataka, or say the other processes of oral storytelling was practiced, but that is not enough. So you had theatres because visualization is also important. Now, with visualization came the early advent of theatres. Now, every state has its own ways and means to tell their stories. So you had jatras in Bengal, you had Bhaunas in Assam, then you have the various Nautankis of Uttar Pradesh, and so on and forth. Now, each of these theatres used to enact scenes which were in tune with the socio-economic and political affiliations of that existing society. So there were stories of common people, there were adaptations of Shakespearean play in the vernacular language, then you had the local plays, then you had a variety of mythological enactments. So you had this Ram Leela enactment, you had love stories, immortal Amar Prem kind of love stories through the Indian versions of Romeo and Juliet vis-a-vis the Leela and Majnu and so on. So primarily there was always a need to tell the story, to enact the story and showcase it, because that acted not only as a means of entertainment, but it also provided grounds of sublimation of people. Remember, when the early innings started, people were preoccupied with the nationalist movements in India. Now these enactments were essential because it tapped on the raw source of energy into a more sublimated and controlled source of energy. It provided a source of entertainment to the people. So it was very popular. Now in the cities, plays were performed in permanent theatre halls, whereas in the rural areas, temporary stages were erected for presentations, particularly during festivals. So permanent theatre halls were erected. Now basically in Kolkata there was a sudden purge of theatre halls. So in places like that it was possible to create theatre halls where people would come together, and these people would in turn go and perform, entertain the audience, retell stories, and the tradition continues from generation to generation. Now, in rural areas, temporary stages were set. So now we have this projector technology that was not there. So, what people used to do was they used to create stages or platforms. Now, in those platforms, you would have the various members of the village themselves taking upon roles. So, the villagers would take on the honors. For example, if they were enacting scenes from the Ramayana, one would be Ravan, one would be Rama, one would be Sita, and so on and forth. Then one would be the dutiful brother Lakshman. Now you make a note here that in that period women were hardly on the stage. So it was the onus of the men to be the woman as well. Then you have different forms of mask which form an integral part of the bhavana or the theatre culture in rural India. So they used to create clay masks out of thatch and dry them in the sun, paint them, adorn them into the characters of the uh, mythological protagonists they were playing, and that is how the theatres and bhavanas were being created. Now there was a purge in the creation of the lyrics during that period. So it was during those songs which were presented in jatras, which were presented in bhavanas, in notankis, where you got the knowledge of the ancient traditions which were being carried on and on. So, particularly, say during Diwali, the Shera time, there was a tradition of the Ramayana being enacted. So, to symbolize the victory of the good over evil, an effigy would be created and that effigy would be burned. Now all of these would simultaneously go on with the theatre which was enacted between Ram, Lakshman, Sita, and how the Sita Haran takes place and how finally Rama gets back his wife after Sugriv and Lakshman and everyone helps him. So all of these, then this would also mark the period where goodness comes in. So from Ayodhya, the Vanvas period ends. Now the Lord Rama is seen to make his entrance back into Ayodhya. Then the Agni Pariksha of Sita. So there are stages where your traditions are being passed. Now not everyone would read the Ramayana, or not everyone would read the Mahabharata. So this is how the message was passed on. Now the rich traditions of urban theatre and folk theatre like Jatra, Nautanki, Swang, Ramlila and Bhavai were based on popular stories, folklore, mythology and legends which directly helped the nascent film industry. You are having people who are getting dressed up. You are having people who are enacting roles. You are having people who are memorizing lines. You are having people who are making the audience mirror the same emotion. So whatever you are showcasing them, you are connecting with them on a one-on-one level. The mirror neurons are working. The neurons of the audience are in tune with what you are trying to show. Now as a result of which, what is happening is people are mirroring, people are knowing each other well. So the rich traditions of urban theatre and folk theatre like Jatra, Nautanki, Swang, Ramlila and Bhavai were based on popular stories, folklore, mythology and legends, and they directly helped the nascent or the early innings of the film industry. Now Jatra was particularly popular in West Bengal. Now you still have in the aristocratic families of Bengal, they do hold jatras. Now what is this? It's, even the films are popular, it's just a means of holding on to the traditions and showing people how the stories have been passed from generations to generations. Now when we talk about cinema in India, the pioneers of the Indian film industry were actually the foreigners. The foreigners were none other than the Lumiere brothers. So, on the 22nd of March 1895, the Lumiere brothers has the first public showing of cinematography at Grand Cafe in Paris. Now, Paris or Paris was known to be the aesthetic and the cultural and the art capital of the world. Now, the Lumiere brothers, they had the first screening of the cinematography, which were nothing but camera shots into a synchronized motion by the Lumiere brothers. Now the Lumiere brothers, they showed their first screening at Grand Cafe in Paris, and the first screening was that of cinematography. Now 7 months later, on 7 January 1896, the same films were being shown in Mumbai by the Lumiere cameraman Maurice Sestier. Now once it was showcased in the Grand Cafe in Paris, now the cameraman Maurice Sestier began showcasing them in Mumbai. The next year in 1897, the films were taken to Calcutta and Madras and shown to spectators who experienced for the first time the wonder of the cinema. By 1898, regular film shows were organized in a tent house in Azad Maidan, Bombay for very large audiences. So this popular process of screening continued from the theatres. Now once the platform or the stage was set for the theatres, the time now came for the people to take it further. Now the Lumiere brothers had created three short films. Now they were all clubbed together into the cinematography. Now in the cinematography, the Lumiere brothers began showcasing the wonders of cinema. So first it went to Paris, then from Paris it came down to Bombay. Now Bombay or Mumbai, as we know today, is the cultural and financial capital of the country. Now in Bombay, the cinema was very well received. There were advertisements about the screening. Times of India had done a publication, an advertisement about the screening which was to take place. Now the popularity of it was such that it went on excuse me, from places which were first to Calcutta and then to Madras. Now Calcutta is the literary capital and Madras is also very rich in culture. So these places began to experience what was shown in Mumbai, and it became a regular. Now by 1898, imagine, regular film shows were being organized. So it's the same as your circus system or your theater or play system. They organize a tent. So if they are organizing it in Azad Maidan, imagine the kind of audience they are getting, the strength of the audience itself. So in a regular tent, people started paying money and then they used to get together and these movies were being showcased. Now the interest in movies that was generated among the spectators inspired enterprising individuals like J.F. Madan to present the film's shows to large gatherings in the tents. So it started the commercialization. Now the movie was gradually being commercialized and people started watching the movies. People started taking time to go and watch the movies. So it was such a success in Calcutta that J.F. Madan began to present the films to the audience at a very regular gathering at a very reasonable price in a 10 to very large gatherings. Now in 1902, Madan started his bioscope shows in the Calcutta Maidan area and drew huge crowds. In 1906, Madan formed the Elphinstone Bioscope Company, which in due course controlled most of the film production of India at that time. 1 year later, in 1907, he set up the Elphinstone Picture Palace in Calcutta, which was the first of its chain of cinema houses. So you see the popularity which is beginning. So firstly, we have the theater. The theater is being showcased on your regular stages or platforms. Now from theater, people are moving into regularized small scale settings where in a regular tent the screenings are taking place. Now before that, imagine the screening was happening only to the elite in a hotel in Mumbai. Then it went to a smaller tent where people used to gather, pay an amount and watch. Now gauge the popularity of the theater to the cinema transition. Now from there, the gatherings began to be large. So in Azad Maidan, you had people who used to gather and watch the movies. Now J.F. Madan was a pioneer because he set up the first commercialized cinema chains in the country. So first he started off by simply showing people or large gatherings inside the tent. Then he didn't stop there. He started with his bioscope shows in Calcutta Maidan area and drew huge crowds. Then he started the Elphinstone Bioscope Company in Bombay. Now that itself was a big leap because Mumbai started being the film city of India. Now, from Calcutta to regular shows, he took the lead to the film city, where now the shows became more larger and most of the film production was done there. So it was basically an established setup in which the various production stages of the films took place and the recording, processing and screening of the films took place there. Now 1 year later, he comes back to his hometown in Calcutta, sets up the Elphinstone Picture Palace, which was the first of his chain of cinema houses. Now we have so many chains like PVR, the regular cinemas, then you have the uh, different screen cinemas, Dolby Sound theaters, and so on. Now look at the transition from a short clip that was being shown to an elite few. Cinema became the mode of entertainment for the masses. Cinema gradually developed to be an industry. It was providing employment. When the production houses were set, when the cinema theater halls were set, it garnered a huge amount of people, and that implied that there was employment. Now, let's come to the silent era. Now, the year 1913 is an important year in the history of Indian cinema because it was in this year that Dada Saheb Phalke made the film Raja Harishchandra, based on a popular story about an upright, righteous ancient king and the sacrifices he had to make to remain firm in his convictions. So the threat was gradually getting on or catching up with the people. Now, before Dada Saheb Phalke made Raja Harishchandra, he started with a small experiment. So he planted a pea sapling, and in slow motion, initially he conceived the idea of clicking the pictures via its growth. So sapling day 1, sapling day 2, day 3, day 4, until a few weeks and months when the sapling became a full-fledged plant. Now, all of these were clubbed together, and in a synchronized manner they were played or they were relayed. Now, what was happening is, when these were relayed, that set to the early ideas on how to make a film. Now, this is the same technique which we employ in the stop motion films. Now, you draw the characters over the period of time, and then you calculate it, give them movements, and it becomes a complete sequence. Now, the similar technique was applied by Dada Saheb Phalke. Now, post that, in 1913, he started making of his movie Raja Harishchandra. Now, people thought he became mad when he wanted to make a movie called Raja Harishchandra. So imagine with almost a non-existent capital, he started selling off his furniture at his home. His wife also got pissed. Many thought he has lost his mind, and that's how he began filming. Now, during the process of filming, women did not take part in the story. So what happened was, since women didn't take part, so he had to convince men to dress up in the female characters. Now that was a massive blow to the patriarchy and the egoistical male ego. Now he had to take the further challenge of educating people. He had to take the further challenge of educating people that it's not a bad thing. He had to convince people to take up those roles, and so on. So finally, Raja Harishchandra was made in 1913, and it was about the uh, popular mythological story about how an upright ancient king sacrifices and he remains firm in his convictions. Now, mythology was a strong point specifically in a country like India, where people usually follow the facts of reading the mythological tale. Now, when the movie began, for the first time they could feel that the flesh and blood were one with time. So, they could easily sense that the movie which was being made was as if the real characters had come to life, and these characters were now playing an important role in bringing back the tradition in a more engrossing manner. Now, the film was screened on May 3rd, 1913 at the Coronation Cinematograph and Variety Hall in Bombay. Though the first feature film in India was uh, Pundalik by N.G. Chitre and R.G. Torne, which was screened on 18th of May 1912. The credit for the first full-length commercial feature film was given to Raja Harishchandra. Now, there was no stopping at all for the expansion of the film setup. The films were made at very small scales. There was always a continuous portrayal, the need to portray the tales of the society. Now, the film was screened on May 1913 at the Coronation Cinematograph and Variety Hall in Mumbai. Now, though the first feature film made in India was Pundalik by N.G. Chitre and R.G. Torne, it was screened on 18th of May 1912. The credit for the first film, however, was gone to Raja Harishchandra. Imagine the outcast, the social criticisms which Dadasaheb Phalke had to face. He had to sell off, auction his household things. He had to convince people. He faced great amount of criticism. People were shunned. Those who took part in his endeavors were shunned by society. But later on was the same society which applauded the initiative which he took. Now, because of that, now you see there's a constant struggle. Now, even though small retellings were taking place like at the Coronation Hall and so on, but Raja Harishchandra was duly given his credit. The success of Raja Harishchandra prompted Phalke to form a company by the name Hindustan Films. Now, within 1 year, Phalke made two more feature films, Mohini Bhamasur and Satyavan Savitri. Phalke later screened them in London. Now, Raja Harishchandra was an endearing topic given the fact that it was about righteousness. It was about standing upon one's principles. Now that was important because at that point the nationalistic movements were in its primal roots. Now with that he made two more feature films. Now Mohini Bhasmasur had actually a female playing the female role. Now Savitri and Satyavan and Savitri were again based on the mythology where Satyavan was a hermit and Savitri was the daughter of a very wealthy king. Now when Savitri got married to Satyavan, she did away with all the jewelry and finery which she received in her parents' house. Now, this was important because here you are showcasing what? You are showcasing the economic conditions of the country and the economic transition which a woman goes through after getting married. Remember, a girl at that point in India had to either get married to a very rich family or had to accept what was there in her less than poorer in-laws place. Now, uh, the story of Savitri goes such that when Satyavan fell ill and Yamraj wanted to take the soul of Satyavan, Savitri dutifully told Yamraj. Yamraj was very amazed by Savitri's dedication. So always the concept of submission, the concept of submissiveness of women, that message was passed on to the society. Now Savitri apparently pleased Yamraj to such an extent that Yamraj decided to grant her a boon. Now the boon was such that Savitri said, I have only one wish. I want to be a mother of 100 sons. Now, you want to be a mother of 100 sons. So blasphemy isn't a notion which is propagated in the Indian society. So Yamraj had no option but to give Satyavan his life back. So the concept where women held the reins of the society, women with her intelligence held the society, was being floated. Now these were very endearing topics on how women supported the household, women gave mental strength to the husband's family, and the woman was a warrior in herself. So these films were thought to be very empowering in nature, and slowly they began to be showcased even in places like London. So basically, imagine uh, from the theatre era, we have gone from, even in the theaters, you could see that mythological tales and legends were being shown. Now, these actually did help in the nascent stage of the film industry, where you show, where it's shown in pictures like Death of Raja Harishchandra and Mohini Bhasmasur, Satyavan and Savitri, and so on. Now, that was the silent era. Now, even though it was considered to be the silent era, it didn't imply that there were no sounds at all. Usually, the silent movies were accompanied with huge drum rolls and cheers and so on. Now was the need to create a movie where there was sound. Now came the era of the talkies. Now, the era of talkies in India led to the introduction of sound films incorporating synchronized dialogues were invented and were known as talking pictures or talkies. Talk itself implies you are speaking, right? So, the talkies were nothing but the talking pictures. Now, the era of talkies in India led to the introduction of sound films incorporating synchronized dialogues and were known as the talking pictures or the talkies. So, with the end of the silent era, now it was the talkies which was basically coming into the primal focus, because now the sound was introduced. What is the point of any visualization if there is no sound? Now imagine that same visualization has sound added to it. Imagine the kind of receptance the film will receive. So that was what exactly happened with the talkies. So in 1931 came the first Indian talkie, Alam Ara and the end of the silent era. It was a costume drama full of fantasy with many melodious songs to intensify the audience's emotion, and it was a stunning success. Now, in 1931, when Alam Ara came into being, it heralded the end of the silent era. Now, what was happening here is in Alam Ara, they began incorporating many melodious songs. Now, songs were simply sung on theaters, but in the silent era movies, there was no such thing as the actual presentation of the song. Now, when Alameda came to being, it was the era where uh, there was a great amount of revelry. So it was basically a costume drama. Costume drama implies that people actually don the role of the characters. There were proper dressing according to the way the characters would talk, and there were many melodious songs. Now, in those days, there was no concept of recording the songs. So, as the character played on, so the character, along with the character would also keep on singing the songs. So, imagine the intensity to which the audience emotions were now being captured. The audience were mirroring itself to a heightened expression of sensitivity which was showcased through the stocky films. And definitely it had its undoubted fair share of success. Now this Alam Ara in 1931 was produced by Imperial Movie Tone, Mumbai. The film was released on 14th of March 1931. So today is 14. Okay, not today. It's 15 today. So yesterday, Alam Ara was probably released at Majestic Cinema, Girgaon, Mumbai. Now, on 14th of March 1931, this movie was released in Bombay. The film starred Prithviraj Kapoor, father of the late Raj Kapoor, Zubeda, who was considered to be the first actress, Master Vittal, Zillo, and Wazir Muhammad Khan. Now, the movie Alam Era was again produced in the film city Mumbai itself. It was produced by the Imperial Movie Tone. Now the film was released on 14 March 1931 at Majestic Cinema, Girgaon, Bombay. The film starred Prithviraj Kapoor, Zubeda, Master Vittal, Zillo, and Wazir Muhammad Khan. The second talkie film released in India was Shirin Farhad on 30th May 1931. It was produced by Madan Theatres, Kolkata, and directed by its owners, Mr. J. J. Madan. Now, the talkies was such a hit that it didn't stop to one movie. The talkies now expanded to the other set of movies. Now, the second talkie film released in India was Shirin Farhad on 30th May 1931. It was produced by Madan Theatres, J.P. Madan of course, and directed by its owners J.J. Madan. Now, it was produced, the second film was Shirin Farhad was produced by Madan Theatre, Calcutta, directed by J.J. Madan, and the film starred Master Nisar, Jahan Ara, Kazam, Miss Silvasia, and others. Then you have the first color film. Now from the silent era to the first talkies, it was all black and white. Then came the era of the first color film. The first ever color film made in India was Kissan Kanhaiya, produced by Imperial Film Company. The film was released in 1973. Now Moti B. Gidwani directed it and its music was composed by Ram Gopal Pandey. The film had 10 songs which were released by Gramophone Records. Now, see the intensity in which there is an increase in the need for entertainment, the need to develop the art of cinema. So where we began from normal theaters, people moved it to the silent era with a view the films like Raja Harishchandra, then Satyavan Savitri and so on. Then came the explosion of sound, and such was the magnitude of the talkies that more and more songs began to be incorporated in order to help the the audience mirror what was being exactly shown. So you see, Calcutta by then was equally parallelly responsible for the great advancement of the nascent film industry. So if the Imperial Movie Tone in Bombay produced movies, then even the Madan Theatre in Calcutta played an equally important part. So the Imperial Movie Tone in Mumbai uh, uh, produced Alam Ara and it was showcased at the Majestic Cinema Hall in Girgaon, Mumbai. And of course, the scion of the Kapoor clan, the Prithviraj Chauhan, father of late Prithviraj Kapoor, father of late Raj Kapoor, was the star of that movie. Then the second film, Talkie, was released by Mr. Madan. Now, even that was very popular. Then the first ever color film was made in India, and again, it is in tune with the mythological concept because they used to sell like hotcakes. So there you have the notion of Kishan Kanhaiya. Then it's again about Sri Krishna and how the entire uh, evolution of the mythical creature Krishna at large was taken care of and was a colored film. It was directed by Moti B. Gidwani. The music was composed by Ram Gopal Pandey. The film had 10 songs and Saregama's Gramophone Records sold the sound rights. Then came the studio system. Now, the second decade of the 20th century saw the founding of big film studios in Bombay, Pune, Calcutta, and Madras. Now, once this amateur uh, early innings of the film industry was done away with, we came with the founding of the actual studios. So there were dedicated setups which were there for the production of the film. Now, these film studios saw themselves being founded in cities like Bombay, Pune, Calcutta, and Madras. So, uh, the Kohinoor Film Company, the Ranjit Movie Tone, and Imperial Film Company were the biggest film companies of that time. Now, these movies were very popular. The movie companies were very popular because they catered to the needs of producing a movie. Now, Kohinoor Film Company, Ranjit Movie, Imperial Film Company acted as launch pads. Now, they were important launch pads where uh, many important film stars and filmmakers met and they acted as launch pads or the success pads as well for many actors. So, besides honing the talents of earlier film stars like K.L. Sehgal, Devika Rani, Ashok Kumar, and filmmakers like Devki Bose, V. Shantaram, Bimal Roy. The studios served as launchpads for the careers of actors and directors as Devanand and Guru Dutt. Now, one such formidable studio where Atan and Dutt kick-started their careers was the Prabha Film Company. So you see that post the silent era, there was this expansion of talkies. Now with the expansion of talkies, uh, there was an heightened need. With the expansion of talkies, there was a heightened need to continue with it, and then you had the various film companies. Now, these film companies acted as the starter pads or the launch pads through which the film stars as well as directors met under one roof. Now, besides honing the talents of early stars like K.L. Sehgal, Devika Rani, Ashok Kumar, and filmmakers, the studio served as launchpads for the careers of actors and directors such as Devika Rani and Devanand and Guru Dutt. Now, Prabhat Film Company was the most important company where the uh, careers of Devanand and Guru Dutt started. Now, Prabhat was launched in 1929 in Kolhapur by V.G. Damle, S. Fateh Lal, K.R. Dhaivar, S.P. Kulkarni, and V. Shantaram. Now, it was, of course, a huge endeavor. It was a movie studio, so that required people to come over and accumulate and create the setup. Now, it was a joint venture of V.G. Damle, S. Fateh Lal, K.R. Dhaivar, S.B. Kulkarni, and V. Shantaram, and it was set up in the Kolhapur area in 1929. The studio was later relocated to Pune. Now, starting with silent films, Prabhat entered the sound era in 1932 and made films in Marathi and Hindi. Now, with the initial setup in Kolhapur, the film studio now shifted to Pune. Now, in Pune, starting with the silent films, Prabhat entered the sound era in 1932 and made films in Marathi and Hindi. Now, though their productions explored mostly mythological and devotional subjects, the studio also looked at hard-hitting social themes. A common thread binding diverse titles was the production quality. Now, these were major studios, major production house. Now, gone were the era where people would be simply satisfied with the simple production of films. Now, this was the time period where people were looking into the more diverse issues. So, with it came the need and necessity to look into the different social themes on caste, politics, religion, which was predominant in the society at that point of time. What was the function of cinema at large? Now, if we talk about the function of cinema at large, cinema is nothing but the propagation of ideas, the propagation of certain ideologies through which there was a constant manipulation or there was a constant propagation of relevant ideas. Now, through the production, when this production houses were set up, there was a huge necessity for people to look after the quality. Now, the very fact of setting up of the production houses implied that quality cannot be compromised because there was a huge amount of resources at stake. Now, not only it was with the setup, but it was also with the constant need of the filmmakers to receive the best out of what they were investing. So you had production quality as a common thread which bounded the people. So now there was a transformation in the narrative structure as well. Now not only people were looking into the mythological tales, but they needed a reality slap. Now, for that, they started taking on the hard hitting social themes, and that is what kept the interest of the people going. Now, there are departments which had a reputation for set construction and use of plaster and draperies were regarded as the finest in the country. Now, usually when we do a theater, all that we need is a wooden stage. That's it, with some taperings. At the most, we would go for the paper mache and concepts like that, but nothing more than that. Now, the art department of Prabhat Theatre had set up the reputation for being the finest in the country because they used plaster and draperies, which was expensive, and not every filmmaker or theatre director could afford it. Now, because they provided all of these at a good price, there was a huge difference in the production quality, and we saw better quality of movies being made. So films like Ayodhya Che Raja, Ayodhya Ka Raja, which was made both in Marathi and Hindi in 1932, on the truth-loving king Harishchandra. Then you had Amrit Manthan in 1934 with human and animal sacrifices as a backdrop. Amar Jyoti, the proto-feminist tale of a woman turning into a pirate and declaring war on the state when she is denied custody of her son, made Prabhat one of the finest producers of the country. So now Prabhat was uh, providing the setup with good quality plaster, draperies, and it made the sets look almost real life. Now, films like Ayodhya Che Raja, Ayodhya Ka Raja, then this was about Rama, and then the truth-loving king Harishchandra. Then Manthan was about human and animal sacrifices. This was a very hard-hitting social themes because India at that point of time was basically superstitious, and India was not over its uh, illogical religious customs. So Amrit Manthan was about animal and human sacrifices as a backdrop. Then you have Amar Jyoti, the proto-feminist tale of women turning into pirates. Now, see, in Amar Jyoti, the woman is turning into pirates. So, of course, the notions of the valor of women, the strength of women, the warriorness quality of women was shown. And the proto-feminist then declares war on the state when she is denied legal custody of her son. Now, all of these made Prabhat one of the finest producers in the country. Now, in 1935, Prathamesh Chandra Borua adopted Harat Chandra Chattopadhyay's popular novel Devdas and made a film with the same name. So Devdas had many remakes. So probably there are three remakes of Devdas. So in 1935, Prathamesh Chandra Barua adopted Harat Chandra Chattopadhyay's popular novel Devdas and made a film with the same name. The novel deals with the issues of class and caste differences that two separate lovers with tragic consequences. So you have Chandramukhi, you have Paro, and you have Devdas. Now Devdas is the quintessential hero of a rich and aristocratic illustrious family who is sent abroad to pursue his study. Now Paro is the neighborhood girl, the lower caste girl who has her sacred adulation for Devdas. Now obviously it's a aristocratic society and Paro will never be accepted by Devdas's so-called clan or kingdom. So of course, then the entry of Chandramukhi or the Nasivali also has a major uh, love triangle. So these dealt with class, caste difference, and how class and caste would later on differentiate Devdas and Paro and the unfortunate consequences which Devdas had to face. He died as an alcoholic also. So you see that those were topics which were now hitting the social arena. So from mythological tales, we were moving into hardcore reality of women. We were dealing from women to animal sacrifices, human sacrifices, to the immortal concepts of love. Now, how love was showcased in Leela and Majnu, thematically in Juliet and Romeo's romances, were almost the same as that showcased in Devdas, but there were societal differences which was wonderfully showcased through this movie. Prabhat's greatest cinematic achievement was Damle Fateh Sant Tukaram in 1936, which was a biopic of the 17th century Maharashtrian saint. So, Damle Fateh Sant Tukaram. Now, Sant Tukaram, now you have many biopics. Biopics are nothing but the cinemas which are almost like a biography of the person. So, Sant Tukaram was the first biography. It was about the 17th century Maharashtrian Saint Tukaram, and that was a huge hit, and it is still considered to be Prabhat's greatest cinematic achievement. Now today the Film and Television Institute of India occupies the land that once occupied the studio in Pune. So Prabhat Theatre is now nothing but the FTI Pune. So you can imagine the legacy which FTI Pune actually carries. Now we come to the golden era of the film. Now following India's independence, the period from late 1940s to 1960s are regarded by film historians as the golden age of Indian cinema. Some of the most critically acclaimed Indian films of all time were produced during this period. So, post-independence, where there was a better flow of resources, now post-independence period, the 1940s to 1960s was regarded as the golden age of Indian cinema. Now, some of the most critically acclaimed Indian films of all time were produced during this period. Now, in commercial Hindi cinema, examples of famous films at the time included Raj Kapoor's Awara, which was in 1951, then Shri 420, as it's told in the Hindi dialect, in 1955, Gurudutt's Pyasa, 1957, Kaagaz Ke Phool, 1959, Mehboob Khan's Mother India, 1957. Now you would like to see that all of these films started the trend of receiving awards. Now, almost all the films got awards. It was being internationally acclaimed. Now, these films were important because they opened uh, the entire domain of Indian film industry to the international audience. Remember, the early innings of the films came from the international audience. Now it was India which was giving them in terms of quality. Now you could see films like Raj Kapoor's Awara, Shri 420, Pyasa. Pyasa is again about a jilted lover, the rich lover, the jilted lover tying into the poet, turning into the poet, and the girl, of course, is married to a richer person whom she doesn't love. So there's this song, Jaane wo log hai jisse pyar ka pyar mila. So it's like the various love sagas which had this strong backdrop of class and society which separated people. Now, all of these films, Mehboob's Mother India, the mother's struggle in a feudal India, how she feeds her children by just planting the saplings from the soil while the rich and greedy landlord looks on, and so on. So those were the films which were nominated for Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Films. Now, K. Asid's Mughal-e-Azam, 1960, Bimal Roy's Do Bigha Zameen and Devdas, 1955, were all stalwarts which brought accolades to the Indian film industry. Now, while mainstream films were thriving commercially, the time was also ripe for parallel cinema to rise. Films by directors like Shyam Benegal, Moni Kaul, Ketan Mehta, Govind Nihalani, Kumar Sahani, and Vijaya Mehta were also being noticed as a separate intellectual genre. Chetan Anand's film Neecha Nagar had won the grand prize at the Cannes Film Festival and paved the way for art or parallel filmmakers. Now, the normal movies were there, then you had the parallel movies. Now, in the parallel movies were aesthetic in nature, they were artsy movies. Now, they were a bridge between the lavish commercialization and the general commercialized lavish movies. Now, the film directors like Shyam Benegal, Mani Kaul, Ketan Mehta, Govind Nihalani, Kumar Sahani, and Vijay Mehta were also being noticed as separate intellectual genres. Now, Chetan Anand's film Neecha Nagar had won the grand prize at Cannes, and that paved the way for the art and filmmakers. Now, let's see from 1896, let's see the landmark events of the Indian cinemas. So in 1896, the first ever film screening, it was 6 shots by Lumiere Brothers, was showcased at the Watson Hotel in Mumbai. Now, Hiralal Sen, that was in 1896. Now, in 1899, Save Dada makes first original short films, The Wrestler and the Man and His Monkeys. Now, 1896, the trend of showcasing the film started with it, and in 1899, you already have people making short films. Now, Save Dada made India's first original short films, The Wrestler and the Man with His Monkeys. In 1900, Hiralal Sen makes Brahmar and creates the first Indian art film. In 1907, J. Madan established the Elphinstone Production Company and the Chaplin Theatre in Kolkata. 1913, you of course have India's first feature film, Raja Harishchandra, which was directed by Dada Saheb Phalke. Then in 1914, you had the first female actress Kamlabai Gokhale, who debuted in the film Mohili Bhasmasur. Like we had discussed earlier, at that point of time, um, like we had discussed earlier, at that point of time, there was barely any male characters. So only the female characters were being showcased, right, by the male characters. So it was considered to be a ostracizing act. Now, the first Indian female actress, Kamlabai Gokhale, debuts in the film Mohili Bhasmasur. Then in 1930, you have the Universal Talkies Melody of Love exhibited in Bombay and the other Indian cities. Now, the other Indian cities were primarily Calcutta and Madras, where the films were really shown. Now, 1931 to 1948, of course, that was the end of the silent era because sound was introduced via the talkies. So, Ardesh Sher Irani's first talkie film, which was also India's first talkie film, was released. Alam Era, with melodious amount of songs which stupefied the audience. The audience could connect well, and with that came on the second talkie film. Now, in 1937, India's first color film, Kisan Kanhaiya, was also released. In 1940, the Film Advisory Board set up in Mumbai to mobilize public support through war propaganda films. So, in 1940s, the war had already broke up. There was always a nationalist fervor. So, even Vande Mataram was being showcased as a movie, which was actually Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay's song. So, the Film Advisory Board set up in Mumbai was set up to mobilize public support through war propaganda films. 1942, you saw V. Shantaram, Mehboob and A.R. Kardar set up their independent production units. Now, just as we have learned, one moment. Yes. So we have seen these good movies, like this was the time when movies like Kader Khan, Mahmood Khan's Mother India, Gurdas Pyasa and all were being released. Now, yeah, so in 1944, it was a crashing period for Indian film industry because it heralded the death of Dada Saheb Phalke. By 1946, Chetan Anand's Neecha Nagar was screened at the Cannes Film Festival. Now, in 1947, India gained independence, and by 1948, S.S. Vasant Chandralekha set a new box office record throughout India. So we could see that the period from 1931 to 1948 was the age of transition. So there was a transition from the movies, which were a part of the silent era, to the sound era, that is the setting up of the talkies, to the production of proper commercial films, and also the growth of directors like Shantaram, Mehboob, A.R. Kardar, and so on. And of course, the first color film, Kishan Kanhaiya, was also released, and with that much of advancement, we also saw the death of Dada Saheb Phalke. Now, formation of the board of CBFC, was formed here. Now, the Central Board of Film Certification was set up as a means to control the quality of the movies which were being produced. Now, the CBFC began giving certificates to the movies based on the following criteria that were universal, which everyone could see. Then you had adult movies, which were restricted, and then you have certain movies which require parental guidance. Now, with the setting of CBFC, there was quite an amount of censoring which started taking place with the films of that era. Now, in 1952, the first International Film Festival was held in India, and it traveled to Delhi, Mumbai, Calcutta and Chennai. Now, the International Film Festival was the showcasing of the different films that was produced in the Indian context. Now, in 1952, Bimal Roy's Do Bigha Zameen got special mention at the Cannes Film Festival. An Indian film festival was first held in Russia in the Soviet Union. Now, Do Bigha Zameen was again on caste, class and the political struggle amongst the Indian people. So it got a special mention at the Cannes Film Festival. Then in 1956, we have Satyajit Ray making a comeback with Pather Panchali, which was awarded the President's Gold Medal as the best film of 1955. It was also awarded at the Cannes Film Festival as Best Human Documentary, and RK Films Jagte Raho won Grand Prix at Karlovy Vary Film Festival. It's a glorious period where the efforts of the filmmakers were finally being recognized in a global perspective. Now, it was during these period that films of Satyajit Ray, Pather Panchali was awarded. It was conferred the award of the best human documentary at Cannes because it showed the poverty-stricken actual life of the people of that period, the starving child, the starving population, the ever-exploiting zamindari system, and so on. Then in 1957, Satyajit Ray's Oparajito won Golden Lion at Venice Film Festival. So Satyajit Ray was on the roll now from Pather Panchali in 1955 to Satyajit Ray's Oparajito, which won the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival. In 1958, you had V. Shantaram's Do Aankhein Bada Haath gets President's Gold Medal, a Silver Bear at Berlin, and Samuel Goldwyn Award for the Best Foreign Film. So it's an illustrious period. The censorship was taking place, no doubt, but there was the need for quality which was recognized. That quality gave the best awards to the Indian industry. So right from taking part in the International Film Festival to showcasing one in India itself, in Mumbai, Delhi and Calcutta, you had directors like Bimal Roy, Satyajit Ray, V. Shantaram, etc. getting the Presidential Medal, special mention at Cannes, winning awards at Cannes, winning the Golden Lion at Venice Film Festival, to getting Silver Bear at Berlin and Samuel Goldwyn Award for the best foreign films. Now, in 1960, the government of India acquires Prabhat Film Studios to set up the Film Institute, or the FTI Pune, which is known now. Now, in 1961, Mrinal Sen's Boishe Shravan, shown at National Film Theatre in London, won critical acclaim. In 1963, the Indian film industry celebrates its golden jubilee. Then in 1964, the National Film Archive of India set up in Pune, and Gurudutt dies in 1964. Amitabh Bachchan was very shocked at that point of time. He said, "जाना था हम सबको जाना है, पर ऐसा भी क्या इतनी जल्दी ऐसे चले गए?" So Gurudutt's death was a shock to the entire industry. Then you have आज फिर जीने की तमन्ना है, your famous cult movie Guide. Now Guide was about this person named Raju who was a con guy. So he was jailed, and once he comes out clean from jail, he decides to be the all clean saint. Now Raju, the guide, the notorious guide who was known to be the con man, now becomes the coveted saint who has come to rescue a village which has been hit by drought and famine. So in the final stages, it's seen that Devanand, who dons the role of the saint, he takes his tutelage in the temple, and then the day he says that there's going to be rain, that's the day it rains, and so on. So it was a very cult movie. It was directed by Ted Danielowski. Now in 1969, Ardeshir Irani, the father of talkies and color cinema, died in the age of 73. Now let's see the landmark events of Indian cinemas. Now, Devika Rani was the first recipient of the Dada Saheb Phalke Award. Now, in 1971, the production of the feature films leads to 432, rendering the Indian film industry the largest film industry in the world. By 1970, over 90% of the Hindi films are switched over to color films. Then you have in 1973 Ramesh Sippy's Sholay. So Sholay was such a popular movie that when children used to cry, they used to tell that do not cry, Gabbar aa jayega, or you had the famous lines of Gabbar, kitne aadmi the Kalia, and all that. So Sholay was a cult movie, and it set a whole new record. There was Amitabh Bachchan, there was Dharmendra, there was Hema Malini, and so on. It was a very good movie. Then in 1976, it was a period of emergency and strict censorship of films during the emergency imposed by the late Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. So the emergency period was at peak. The Gandhi Parivar was also at its prime, and emergency was issued. No one was allowed to showcase anything against the Gandhi Parivar and so on. Now, from 1981 to the 2000s, you saw in 1980 the formation of NFDC was set up, the National Film Development Corporation. Now, it actually looked into measures beyond censorship. So it was used to promote films which were hard-hitting social issues which people could connect and which was relevant and important for the society. Now in 1981, 50 years of the Hindi film industry was achieved. In 1982, the Asian Games provided the occasion to start the telecast of color TV programs. Now, the period of 1983, you see Mrinal Sen's Courage won the Special Jury Prize at Cannes, and Bhanu Athaya won Oscar for costume designs for Gandhi. Then ace actress Meeta Patil died at the age of 31 in 1986. 1987, this was the period where the new wave was there. There were parallel cinemas. So in 1987, you have Meera Nair's Salam Bombay, which got nominated in the Best Foreign Film category at the Academy Awards. Then you have the Yash Raj film, Shah Rukh Khan's classic cult movie Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge was now being released in 1995. So again, Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge showcased the movement which took place. Now there was a huge diaspora. Diaspora is the NRI population. Now this NRI population formed the largest diaspora in the United States as well as the United Kingdom. So you have songs like Gharaja Pardesi Tera Desh Bulaye Re. So this diaspora films were there to create a sense of belonging to the population of India who were settling in the foreign lands. So, Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge was about this people, the Indian people who have migrated to foreign shores and who are trying their best to give their kids a taste of Indian culture. So you had the strict and sanskari father in Amrish Puri and the two daughters, Kajol and Farida Jalal was the mother, and we all know how Amrish Puri decides to give his daughters a proper and strict upbringing. So there are scenes in the movie where children listen to the radio, and when they see that the father is approaching, they shut it off. Then comes the period when he goes back to his motherland and tries to get his daughter married to an Indian, but it happens otherwise and the drama follows. So it's like Ja Simran Ji Le Apni Zindagi and all that for the cult lines. Then in 1997, the first multiplex theatre was opened in New Delhi. Then in 1998, Ram Gopal Verma's gangster classic Satya is released. Now, from the period of 1960s to 1970s, it was a period of huge political unrest, and it was also a Marxist period. The rich were getting richer and richer, and poor were getting poorer. So there was no laissez-faire economy as such, and there was the classic difference between the bourgeois, the working class, and the proletariat. So this was the time period when the angry young men genre came into being. Now the angry young men conquered Indian cinema screens in the late 1960s and early 1970s. So you have the angry underdog hero who fought in the action-packed films against the criminal and corrupt establishment and is still remembered today as the most prominent cinematic icon of the 1970s and the 1980s. So you have the hero. So you have this famous lines where the establishment or the corrupt person would say, मेरे पास बंगला है, गाड़ी है, मकान है, and तुम्हारे पास क्या है? So the underdog hero, the angry underdog hero, none other than Amitabh Bachchan, with whom we can relate that, would to say that मेरे पास माँ है. So you have all kinds of actors now. So the genre of masala, genre of Bollywood action fighting and so on came back during this period. Now, a number of political events such as the war with Pakistan in 1971, the violent Naxalite movement in Bengal in the late 60s and early 70s, the imposition of emergency in 1975, the political instability that followed, the Khalistan movement in Punjab, and the growing dissatisfaction among the middle class Indians about the state of affairs in general were reflected in Hindi movies with the emergence of the phenomena of the angry young man as the central protagonist of a film. So there was lots of war, there was lots of bloodshed. So it was the period where India-Pakistan war had gone for their phases. You had the Naxalite movements. In Canada, the Khalistani Sikhs were killed and there was a huge uproar. They came, they bombarded the Golden Temple. Operation Blue Star was launched. So there was a growing dissatisfaction among the middle class Indians about the state of affairs in general, and they were reflected in Hindi movies with the emergence of the angry young man as the central protagonist. Now this trend started with the role of the actor Amitabh Bachchan as the hero of the film Zanjeer. The hero in the figure of an angry, disenchanted, lonely individual, disinterested in women and women's, yet motivated enough to take on the corrupt world of injustice, single-handedly greatly appealed to the general public. So other Bachchan films with a similar theme were Diwar in 1975 by Yash Chopra. Then you have Ramesh Sippy's Sholay, and they all shattered the box office collection. So you could see Sholay, the fight between the communal Gabbar and the Indian setup, and so on. The Diwar was again about the corrupt establishments, the fight between the right and the righteous son. Then the growing dissatisfaction with the social, political and economic systems and the government in general was reflected also in films like Mrinal Sen's Calcutta 71, Mrigoya in 1976, Avatar calls 27 Down, Shyam Benegal's Ankur and Manthan in 1976. So there was a constant state of unrest, there was a constant state of conflict which was very well represented in the works of Mrinal Sen, Shyam Benegal, Avatar Call, etc. Now in 1975, Satyajit Ray made Jono Oroino, The Middleman, a contemporary and intercreative look at the moral and ethical dilemma which individuals face in a corruption-ridden society. So the corruption was at its peak, the rich were getting richer, the poor people, the middle class people of India were exploited to a great extent. Now all of these were taken up in Jono Oroino. Now it was in this period where you had the new wave cinema. The new wave was almost similar to the Italian neorealistic movies like Bicycle Thieves and all, but there was a difference. The new wave in Indian cinema is complicated, for unlike the French New Wave and the Italian Neorealism of 1950s, and indeed several prominent film movements around the globe, the New Wave Indian cinema had no clear beginning and end, and therefore no defined aesthetics or issues. Now while Mrinal Sen's NFDC finance Bhuvan Shome is widely considered to be the beginning of the new cinema, it had no clear culmination. The avant-garde bug had taught Indian filmmakers in births and pauses. So for example, Satyajit Ray's Mrinal Sen Ritwik Ghatak in 1960s and 70s, Shyam Benegal, Kamal Swarup, Mani Kaul in the 80s, Ram Gopal Verma, Mani Ratnam, Aparna Sen in the 90s and early 2000s all brought new grammar and ideology to the Indian cinema. So if you see the movies which were being made by Aparna Sen, Shyam Benegal, Kamal Swarup, you will see that now it was focusing on the alternate or middle class dimension. Now, in alternate cinema, aesthetics were improved. For example, in Aparna Sen's Iti Mrinalini, it's about the story of the actress Mrinalini, who goes through the various phases of her life from being a phenomenal success to being reduced to a identity which is of no use for the film industry. So the harsh ethos of film industry were projected in E.T. Mrinalini. How Mrinalini, who was in the prime and peak of her life, had a child outside marriage, had glorious standards, used to smoke. At the end of the day, she had no one when she breathed her last. Then again, you have Aparna Sen's Goinar Baksha. Now, in Goinar Baksha, you see the widow Rashamuni, who is so obsessed with her jewels, and the uh, brothers keep her when she gets widowed at the age of 13 years, and her only bone of satisfaction and bone of contention for other family members was a box of jewelry where she used to hide, and they used to uh, think that the moment she dies they can sell her jewels. So this is a semi-horror comedy where through it they show how the constant urge to become rich was being rising in the poor. The lady gets married to a noble family, but of course decadence has set in. The illustrious family is broke, and they are selling one by one parts of the family. Now the concept of identity, from the period of being an unknown widow to having a character where the Boma gives a opens a cloth shop, and she uses the uh, gold chain from the bookshop, and then she opens the cloth shop and names it after Rashamuni, who is the forgotten identity. So all those entangle the social fabric of the society is weaved through this movies. Then you have stars in the new wave cinema. Now, while the parallel cinema did not depend on stars in the same way as Bollywood, a number of key actors and actresses have been important both in developing the realistic acting styles and also increasing the popularity of the new wave films. Now, an important actress in parallel cinema was Smita Patel, who also worked in commercial cinema. Now, Smita Patel appeared in Bhumika, a film for which she won the National Best Actress Award. She graduated from the FTII Pune and appeared in several films directed by Shyam Benegal. Uh, she also worked in films made by Satyajit Ray, Mrinal Sen, and a number of other directors in the new cinema, and acted in Hindi, Marathi, Bengali, Gujarati, Kannada, Malayalam, and Telugu. She died in 1986, aged only 31, having appeared in around 70 films. Her films frequently centered on strong and independent women, but also on the social pressures that limits them. In the case of Bhumika, the film dramatized, as the name suggests, the autobiography of the actual film actress Hansa Vadkar. Then we have Rishikesh Mukherjee's famous middle wave cinemas. The middle wave cinemas is coined so for the movies which were released in this period were generally referred to the movies of the working class. Now the working class here is no longer the farmers, but the advancement has already taken place in India to some extent. It's a developing country, and the struggles of the working class are being shown here. So it can depict story of a common man who works 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and lives in shawls, a small apartment while combating with his personal problems. Now Rishikesh Mukherjee was an Indian film director known for his number of films including Satyakam, Chupke Chupke, Anupama, Anand. Uh, Anand is about Rajesh Khanna's बाबू मोशाय जिंदगी लंबी नहीं यादगार होना चाहिए और something quote unquote. अभिमान, गुड्डी, गोलमाल, मार्शली दीदी, छैताली, आशीर्वाद, बावर्ची, किसी से ना कहना and नमक हराम. Now in Bawarchi it's about again Rajesh Khanna who acts as a chef, goes from home to home. He serves the people unrelentlessly and then he disappears one day until he goes and fixes the middle age crisis of the other families. So these families, which were directed by Rishikesh Mukherjee, popularly known as Rishida. He had directed 42 films during his career, spanning over 4 decades, and is named the pioneer of middle cinema of India. Renowned for his social films that reflected the changing middle class ethos, Mukherjee carved a middle path between the extravagance of mainstream cinemas and the stark realism of the art cinemas. The art cinemas like Mirch Masala and all were hard hitting. They were very sharp and they presented the authentic version of reality in a very striking manner. Now Rishida's approach was mid-level. Now what was happening was he took in the ethos, the pathos of the middle class people residing in shawls, residing in the normal areas, the struggles, the bonuses which they get weren't supposed to sustain the entire family, let alone be an extra income. So all of these form an integral part in Rishida's movies. So it was the story of the common man who worked 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., lived in small shawls or small apartments while combating with his personal problems. Then you have regional cinemas. The three important centers where Indian cinema has got his early growth were in Mumbai, Kolkata and Chennai, where the principal trading port of the Imperial British India. Now, the Hindi films which were made in Bombay found good market across the country and became the most dominant film of production. But of course, you have Telugu films in Chennai, Bengali films in Kolkata, and Marathi cinema in Mumbai, and they also flourished, producing its own band of popular entertainment. So this was the time period where Indian cinema had its early growth in Mumbai, Kolkata, and Chennai, and this was also the period where the regional cinema at large was flourishing. So you could see the regional industries. Now Hindi movies was prominent. Bombay made Hindi movies and they already found a good market across the country. But Telugu cinema in Chennai, Bengali cinema in Kolkata, Marathi in Mumbai also flourished, producing their own brand. Now, the mainstream cinemas, regional cinemas developed its own formulas for success depending on the demands of the audience at that point of time. Now, it produced the individual filmmakers who wished to depart from mainstream formula towards what is called auteur films. Now, auteur theory is that theory in film studies where the director is the author, the writer is the author. He tells his own story. He tells his own tales. Now, in regional cinemas, you saw the author theory being implemented to the highest hill. So the mainstream regional cinemas developed its own formulas for success depending on the demands of the audience. And at the same time, they produce individual filmmakers who wish to depart from the mainstream formula films towards the making of auteur films. The regional cinema has been officially patronized by the government by the establishment of state-level film development corporations and the institutionalization of national awards in which regional cinema is being given due recognition. So regional cinema has been officially patronized by the government because every state has the need to produce films, and all of these films were later on being funded by the government so that the due recognition was finally given. Now when we talk about Bengali cinema, now Bengal from Madan Babu's times, the first film, it was in 1897 that the first film was being showcased in Calcutta. In 1919, the first Bengali movie, Bilwa Mongol, was being produced. Now, Pramothesh Borua may be considered to be the first star of Bengali films because he was not only a brilliant actor but he also directed films. Now, Pramothesh Chandra Borua's 1935 film adaptation of Sarat Chandra Chattopadhyay or Sarat Chandra Chatterjee's popular novel Devdas is primarily known. Now, among the early Bengali actors, the name of Kanan Devi is important because she, like Devika Rani and Zubeda in Mumbai, inspired women to shed inhibitions and become a part of the film industry. Now, we knew that women were not allowed. Now we have Ila Borua and all who also contributed a lot. She was the maternal grandmother of Sharmila Tagore. So they were illustrious women who were not allowed to act in movies, but they did their own contribution. Early Bengali cinema was powered by good stories drawn from the rich Bengali literature and was accompanied by the work of many musical and rich Bengali tenants. So Bengali culture, Bengalis Rabindra Sangeet and everything was important, and to them it was important that it got preserved, it got propagated. So when you see the movies, you will see that there is so much of cultural legacy the state of Bengal, the state of Shonar Bangla has produced that all of them needed to be told, and these tellings were drawn from the rich Bengali literature and was accompanied by the work of many musicians from Bengal. So Hemant Kumar, Manna Dey, Kishore Kumar contributed to Bengali cinemas as much as they had contributed to the mainstream Hindi cinema. Now, songs from Bengali films became extremely popular and they're always adopted to songs. So, there's this song. Lakshmi Aire Ghore means Lakshmi has come home. That was the gist of the song. This went on Kishore Kumar put it in all different contexts and made the Hindi song Pyar Bina Chain Kahari. Okay, so but it was a very popular Bengali song which welcomed a new bride to her home. And when it went to mainstream cinema, the tone was retained, but the content was lost altogether. Now, the 60s and the 70s were dominated by films with the lead pair of Uttam Kumar and Suchitra Sen that took Bengali cinema by storm. The duo acted in a number of successful films, and some of them remain classics in the generation of romantic musical drama. So every Sunday, we would have this tradition where Bengali movies of Uttam Kumar and Suchitra Sen would always by default be showcased by all the Bengali channels. So with the release of Pather Panchali in 1955, Bengali cinema, so the advent of parallel cinema, and along with Ray, Mrinal Sen and Ritwik Ghatak, they became internationally known as the directors with their socially relevant cinema, and that really actually inspired a whole genre of generations. Then we come to Assamese cinema. Now in Assam, as far as 1935, Rupkor Jyotiprasad Agarwala directed the first Assamese film, Joymoti. Now Joymoti was the valoric film of the wife of King Godadhar. Now Joymoti was tortured by the people, but she wouldn't even disclose the whereabouts of her husband, and finally Joymoti breathed her last. Now Rohini Kumar Borua made a film on a relevant historical topic called Monomoti in 1941. Now it was followed by films like Parvati Prasad Borua's Rupohi in 1946, Kamal Narayan Chaudhary's Bodan Borfkon 1947, Foni Horma's Siraj, Asit Sen's Biplobi, Probin Fukon's Parghat, and Suresh Goswami's Runumi. Now, all of these films, now the first film was made by Rup Kaur Jyotiprasad Agarwala in 1935. It was Joymoti. But then came the World War, and with it there were different budgetary cutouts as well as technological innovations. So Rohini Kumar Borua made full advantage of it, and he made the film Monomoti, followed by Parvati Prasad Borua's Rupohi, Kamal Narayan Chaudhary's Bodan Borfukan. Bodan Borfukan was the commander in the Ahom army. Then Foni Horma's Siraj, Asit Sen Biplobi. Biplobi itself means a revolutionist. Probin Fukon's Parghat, and Suresh Goswami's Runumi. The most remarkable film of the 50s was Pioli Fukon, which went on to win a national award. Now, Pioli Fukon was again in tune with the nationalist wave that was taking a wave at that point of time. Bhupen Hazarika also produced and directed his first film, Erabator Hur. Now, Prabhat Mukherjee made a film on the universality of motherhood, and that was none other than Puberun, which was shown in the Berlin Film Festival. Now, notable directors of contemporary Assamese cinema are Jahnu Borua, who directed movies like Aparupa, Pakori, Halodhia, Soraye Baudhan Khai, Bonani, Firingoti, and Hagoroloi Bohudur. Hagoroloi Bohudur implies the sea is very far. Now, Sanjeev Hazarika made Holadhar, Mima Hongha, and Bhavendranath Hoikya, who directed Hondhya Rag, Onirban, Agnisnan, Harothi, Kolahol, Overton, Itiha, and Kal Hondhya. Now we also have other important directors, including Santwana Bordloi, who directed Odoijjo. Odoijjo was Mamni Raisam Goswami's famous book, The Mot Iden Hauda of the Taska, or the Total Hatir Uvek Hua Hauda. Now that was about the Brahminical system, how widows were kept, the elephants, and there's lines like Ekalor Brindavan Ekalote Pore Son, which implies there is decadence. So the rich, the splendor of once upon a time will have its fall. Now, Vidyut Chakravarti made Rag Birag. Manju Bora has won multiple awards with her films like Vaibhav, Akahi Torar Kothare, and Laj. Then we have Tamil films. The first feature film in Tamil was Kicha Kavatham, which was made in 1916 and 17. It was directed by Nataraja Mudaliar, and Kalidas was the first talkie film in Tamil. The Tamil cinemas have been always a force of the politics of Tamil Nadu, with the best industry personalities such as MGR or MG Ramachandran, M Karunanidhi, and J Jayalalitha having already held political offices. Now, with the establishment of Madras Film Institute, the quality of Tamil cinema had increased during the time period of 1980s. But again, it gained international exposure with the works of Mani Ratnam, Ilayaraja, and A.R. Rahman. Now, Tamil stars such as Kamal Hassan have been successful nationally, while others like Rajnikant has had a global fan following. So every time there is a release of Rajnikant's movie, you will find an Abhishekam which is held in Rajnikant's honor, where almost the last time I remember almost 500 liters of milk were poured over a cutout of Rajnikant. So Tamil cinema has its inroads into the Tamil politics of the country. And most of the famous actors who dominated the Tamil film industry were actually the prominent Tamil politicians. Then you have the Telugu film industry. Now, the Telugu film industry of Andhra Pradesh is one of the largest in India in terms of the number of movies which were provided in a year. So, the first Telugu talkie was H.M. Reddy's Bhakta Prahlad. Now, Bhakta Prahlad was always this religious movie which was made, and it was made in such a way that it showcased the dutifulness of the obedient son Prahlad and the son of Hiranyakashipu, and whose sister Hidimba wanted to murder him but couldn't, and she had this trick of having a cloak in the fire, but what happened was she herself got burned and Prahlad was safe. Now, Reddy's Grihalakshmi was a path-breaking film. Then you have Bhakta Potana, Yogi Varmana, Maleshwari may be well regarded as early Telugu classics. Now, Telugu cinema shot into limelight in 1981 with K. Vishwanath's Sanghavarnam, which bagged the Golden Slotan Award. Now, NTR or S.T. Ramarao frequently worked in the mythological movies and ruled the Telugu cinema for nearly 2 decades. Now, while Krishna has left indelible mark in Telugu cinema, Chiranjeevi is the new cult figure who represented the concept of the angry young men in Telugu cinema. Shyam Benegal's Anugraham, Mrinal Sen's Oka Kuri Katha, Gautam Ghosh's Madhumi helped Telugu cinema come out of the mythological curvature and focus on reality. So some of the national award-winning Telugu movies include Megha Sandesam, Sagara Sangamam, Swathi Mutyam, Shruti Layalu, Ninne Pilledatta, Shinduram, Toli Prema, Kali Sundamra, Nuve Kaveli, Aithe, and Swarabhikesham. Then we come to the Malayalam cinema. Now, the Malayalam film finds its audience in India's Kerala state, which has the highest literacy and also has an established tradition of theatre. So the Malayalam film industry had its artistic tradition, which was exemplified by the works of Adur Gopalakrishnan G. Aravindam, as well as the tradition in commercial cinema where you have your Mohanlal and Mammootty. Now, Adur Gopalakrishnan's hits include Swayamvaram, Kodiyettam, Elipatyam, Mukhamukham, Antaram, Vidheyan and Kathapurusham. Now, G. Aravindam's glorious sagas include Uttarayanam, Kanchana, Sita, Thampi, Kunmati, Estapan, Oridat, Maratham and Vasuthu Tharhara. Then other notable filmmakers in Malayalam cinema consist of Vasudevan Nair, who made movies like Nirmalayam and Bandhanam. Then P.A. Baker made Kabani Nari, Guvanappol. Pamarajan made Pyoyazi, Ambalam. Then V.R. Gopinath made Grishyam. John Abraham made Amma Aryan and Chariya Chante Krogra, Kritya Yangal. K. Ravindran made Ore Thavul Pakshigal, N. Karun made Swaham Hariharan's Parinayam, then T.V. Chandran made Orma Kalundariyakkanam and Jairaj Deshadanam and Kaliyattam. Then of course you have Kannada cinema. Now Namma Bengaluru is always known as the hub of good movies. The history of Kannada cinema can be traced to Bhakta Dhruva in 1934, but it was Dr. Rajkumar who provided the much needed impetus to Kannada films. Now, some of his best Kannada films include Samskara, Vamshavrishka, Kadu, Chomanna, Dudi, Odanadu, Kaladali and Hamse Geethe. Now, Hamse Geethe was recognized both in the national and international level. So other notable films comprise M.S. Satyu's Kaneshwara Rama, Chittage Chinte, Girish Karnath, who was a very important playwright in Kannada literature, Odandu Kaladali, then he had Hayavadana, then Tabayalu Ninade Magane, then P. Lankesh of the famous Lankesh Patrike had Pallavi, and Girish Kasavali had Khatta, Shraddha, Mane and Thai Sahib. Now Kannada cinema actually borrowed a lot from Kannada literature and even from cinema of the other language. Then of course we have our very own Marathi cinema. Now we know Dada Saheb Phalke, who was the founder of Indian cinemas, was himself a Maharashtrian. So some of the earliest filmmakers such as Dada Saheb Phalke belong to the state of Maharashtra, which has the Marathi cinema as its audience. The first two Indian feature films, Pundalik and Raja Harishchandra, were unmistakably Maharashtrian in form and substance. Baburao Painter made films like Sairandri, Vatsalaharan, Singhar and Savkari Pash. Now, Sant Tukaram was a path-breaking movie. It was directed by Damle Fateh Lala in 1937 and it represented Indian cinema at the Venice Film Festival. So you have Bhalji Fendarkar of Jaiprabha Studios, Kolhapur, who made magnificent films like Shyam Sundar, Midh Bahkar, Sadi Mansi and Tamdi Mati. Now, Dada Khonke made his debut in 1971. Now, what Dada Khonke did was, with Son Gadia, he was very successful and from then followed the string of other successful movies. Then you have other notable Marathi filmmakers who contributed immensely to the Marathi film culture. Now you have Jabbar Patel, whose films like Samna, Jet Re Jet and Simhasan were very important because they dealt with the socio-cultural fabric of the Marathi society. Then you have Vijay Tendulkar's Ghasiram Kotwal, very famous movie. Ramdas Puthane Sarva Sakshi, Raj Dutt, Devki Nandan Gopala, Vijay Khonke's Maherchi Sadi, Shravani Deodhar's Sarkar Nama, Jayu Patwardhan's Limited Manuski, and Arun Khopalkar's Kathadon Ganapati Vanshi. So you see that all of these went on to build the industries of regional cinema, and today we have Tollywood, Jollywood, Gollywood, and God knows how many woods, and all of them form the larger fraternity of Bollywood. Now with this we come to the end of our lecture. Thank you once again.